All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Coleman Power Organic Fitness Podcast. I have Orla Power. No, we are not related, but yes, we are on the same mindset. We have most certainly herself, who is a holistic chef. She's based in County Wexford, and as a result of that, she is studying culinary arts up in TU Dublin. Hello, Orla, and say hello to the listeners.
Hi, everybody. How are you? And hi, Coleman. How are you again? Lovely to see you.
Myself and Orla touch base there, and we're going to further expand on at an event there very recently in Wicklow. But before we get into that, I suppose being someone who's really interested in food and preparing the best foods going forward, you maybe tell me a little bit about how you got into, I suppose, holistic cooking and your own background in itself.
Okay, so I think for me, food has always been like my love. Do you know, even when since I was a kid, I was always really into kind of, eating well and like didn't really like kind of processed foods and junk foods and stuff like that. So for me, it's always been like my love and my passion. And I remember like my friends and family used to say to me for years, "Oh God, stop, you're making me hungry every time we talk," because I'd just be talking about food constantly. And I suppose over the years, I remember I was working in an art studio, in a ceramic art studio for 5 years, and I'd always be bringing them in stuff. And I used to do little markets and stuff as well, kind of doing vegan chocolates and treats and stuff like that. And then I decided that I'd like to go back as a mature student and study something. And I was like, well, what am I going to study? Like, you know what I mean? And I just, well, food, but I was a little bit worried, obviously, about turning my passion into reality every day. But you know what? It was the best decision that I've ever made. So I went back to, it was Cahill Brewer Street at the time, and started my degree in culinary arts there. But also within that time and before it, I've done so many different courses in like raw food, vegan food, Ayurvedic cooking. Like if I travel, I love to travel, and anytime I go away, I just look, I well, like eat as much as I can of local cuisine, but also like to do cooking classes and stuff like that. So I'm just mad about food, really.
And Orla,
um,
I even know that you do and have done previously likes of a combination of either foraging and cooking for people. Even expand
yeah,
on that. I suppose we're coming into the likes of spring, and I suppose
yeah.
wild garlic wouldn't be a million miles away when this podcast comes out.
Yeah, it's actually, do you know what? I've seen some of my friends like on Instagram have shared one or two that they've actually seen some of it already, which just shows you the mild winter that we've had. But yeah, that's always been a big part of it for me as well. Like I love being outdoors, and I love, like within the seasons, there's so much to offer. My friends always laugh at me saying I'm always in the ditches picking stuff, do you know what I mean? But like we can eat in season as well. You know what I mean? Little things like exactly coming up now, like you've got your wild garlic, you can make lovely oils, pestos, lots of different things from your wild garlic moving into the summer. I mean, it's just such an abundance. I love like, hawthorn berries, rose hips, the elderflower in summer to make lovely cordials. Then you've got the elderberry. And I always find that like things that grow around us, like they're made for us in the season. So like in terms of like elderberry and stuff like that, it's kind of at the end of summer. And then that's going to give you all the vitamins and the stuff that you need kind of in the change of that season. So it's really interesting, like when you kind of start to look into things like that, and what we have grown around us, and how interlinked it is.
Yeah, I suppose that key point of the likes of food being medicine, like the idea that
Yeah,
a high percentage of the garlic that we're getting here in Ireland is shipped halfway across the world from
I
the likes of
know,
China.
I know. Yeah. And I suppose a lot of people just don't know. Do you know what I mean? And like I'm always saying it to people, like there's so much growing around us, like that we can get out, and nettles, dandelion leaves. I think, we'll talk about it more in a bit, but at the weekend when we did your retreat, when I was catering for it, if you remember, I made those leek and courgette fritters. But for another event that I did, I did those with leek and nettle. And people were kind of like, nettle, but it's such a good source of so many nutrients and antioxidants, and it's so easy to harvest it and have it in your diet.
Totally. Like nettles, the main benefits of it would be magnesium for energy, for sleep,
Yeah,
reduced anxiety. It's outside your goddamn back door. You can pick them coming into spring. They're in abundance. If you're short them, you can't find them.
yeah.
Go to your neighbor, go to your auntie, go to your uncle. Those nettles are there for you to consume. Again, and they're
I
typically,
know, and then one of the things that I know we were talking about over the weekend as well was the nettle seeds, and like we're going to the shops and we're buying like chia seeds. Do you know what I mean? When all we need to do is harvest and dry the seeds that grow on the nettles. You can see them. It's so easy. You just kind of pick them. You see that they're kind of hang off it like nearly bunches of grapes hanging off the nettle. The seed, dry them. It's even better than the chia seeds that we're buying. Do you know what I mean? And it's Irish
yeah, you can't get better. Local,
and a
fresh.
really good source of protein as well.
Yeah, they're literally again one of those foods that everyone, for the most part, if you don't know what a nettle is, well, you may have been living in near a rock. Some people in American
Yeah,
listeners, that stinging nettle, same thing. And again, you just harvest it. You can literally turn them upside down, put a sheet of cardboard underneath. All you have to do is literally give it a little tap, and the seeds will
that's it.
fall directly straight onto the cardboard. You pour them into literally your porridge, your whatever you have in your salads, and you gain the advantage of again a high antioxidant seed that's literally come from the ditch of the bank where you're currently located.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I was thinking about this earlier on as well. And I remember having a conversation with another chef friend of mine. Like everybody's going mad for the acai bowls at the moment. I don't know if you've ever tried it or acai, there's different ways to pronounce it. But I mean, like there's a berry, it's called a sea buckthorn. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I am. And actually,
Yeah.
would you this is amazing. I do a little bit of lecturing as well, and sea buckthorn is an invasive plant. But anyway, go on.
But the berries from that, like
Yeah,
it's if we started making like people are making, you know what I mean, like the acai bowls and they're so popular here. Like if we started, I shouldn't be giving away my ideas now, but like if we made a sorbet or an ice cream or something, I mean, like it's Irish, it's full of nutrients, full of vitamin C, so good for us. You know what I mean?
that's the important. That's very interesting. So, what you're actually after proposing is one way of controlling it. So, this is what happens
Yeah,
when you get two people together that literally are at both sides of it. You're looking to use those delicious berries, which I've heard loads about. Me, I
yeah,
know what it is. It's an invasive plant that actually takes over, but in itself, there's always a positive to that. To control
yeah.
it, you take the berries off because the berries are the part where the seeds are located and involved in local producers or individuals like yourself that are using that produce to make delicious, beneficial, I'm going to say foods for people, it is a no-brainer then, and it stops the spread of that, and everyone wins in that scenario because we have it
They have
in.
so many different uses the sea buckthorn does. Like I know, like a friend of mine, she would make an oil from them and she actually uses it in her homemade cosmetics, like moisturizer and stuff like that. There's so many different uses, but like from a culinary, side that I look at it, like and you can pick them and freeze them and use them, like at different times in the year. They can be hard to find, but you said it's very invasive. So, I know a lot of people ask me, "Oh, where do you find them?" They're coastal. It's a coastal plant.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you said
and
that because I'm going to, yes.
little tiny orange berries, and the bush is quite prickly as well. So I think you have to be quite careful picking them.
Well, there's a great way of identifying it. If you were at the coastline of, I'm going to say, of Ireland at the minute, there's sea buckthorn, and it typically is going to again flower first, then you'll have the berries later on in the
Yeah,
year, and it is something that bright orange, those berries. And you could say that again, it's something that may be similar in comparability nutritionally to the likes of the goji berries, which again shipped
yeah.
halfway across the world.
Exactly. They're quite bitter and tart, but I mean, like you can add stuff to that to make it, more palatable, whatever. But I'm gonna have to try it myself because I've been thinking about it for so long, and I remember talking to a friend of mine who's a chef about it as well. So it's definitely something that I want to try and maybe even try it because I know the cafe where I work in Wexford Town, the Trough. I mean, we do acai bowls in there, but we also, myself and one of the other chefs in there, put on an evening recently, kind of experimental tasting menu, and I did include nettles. I did the nettle fritters. Also use little things like Alexander seeds. Have you ever heard of those? So it's a wild Irish pepper.
Oh my, I'm going to tell you, I've been around and I've been growing a while and I haven't come across those. Fill me in.
Okay, well look it up, Alexander seeds, and they grow in abundance in the ditches. Just you can look that one up yourself. But basically, if you put that in a pestle and mortar and grind it down, it's just like pepper, and it's Irish. You know,
Like, and
Alexander
is
seeds.
it peppery to taste, similar to the black pepper?
So peppery. It's actually nicer than pepper. You have to go out and get some and try it. It's so much nicer than pepper even.
That's amazing. So we're literally set up for salting or more so flavoring the likes of our whatever you're going to have with pepper, more so like your
Yeah.
eggs, your main meal dishes. And if you had a combination of that turmeric, that's another breadwinner. I know that you've studied and done a little bit of homework in relation to adding turmeric to dishes as well.
Yeah, yeah, I did. Well, I mean, that would be like I did the nutrition lifestyle coaching, but also the Ayurvedic cooking. Like, I mean, turmeric would be massive in Ayurvedic cooking. And, like anybody, I suppose, that know, they always say that you should add your black pepper with turmeric to help it absorb into
Yeah,
your.
increase. You're dead right.
Yeah,
Increase the absorption of those
yeah,
anti-inflammatory properties. Activates it, in fact. So if
yeah.
you're and you will see that in abundance. This we're in January now recording this. The idea is new health buzz. You'll see people turmeric smoothies, drinks, and some people may be putting it on their face. God knows what to do with it. But
Oh God, I know. I actually heard. I'm not. I've heard a very funny story about that. I'm just going to say it really quickly. But a friend of mine said that his wife read somewhere about making a turmeric paste to use as a face mask. He said he got home from work and she looked like Marge Simpson. You know how much it stains, like.
disaster.
Oh, hilarious.
Imagine cutting it.
Anyway,
Oh my
don't
God.
make a turmeric face mask. Use it in your cooking. Don't put it on your face.
Oh my God. Yeah, turmeric is one of the high antioxidant, I'm going to say, spices that I'd highly recommend to people. It
It's
reduces
amazing.
inflammation. It's something that
Yeah.
has nearly 40 times the antioxidants that any fruit or vegetable does. That's why spices and herbs would be something I'd always recommend people to add to different dishes for improved health out the other side of it. Are there any other berries and things that you currently either use or forage for, like either the hawthorn or just an example of one?
Yeah, well, the hawthorn is and like I was doing an event in the summer and we did these, it was called the Wild Table actually, with another friend, chef of mine, Teresa. Her company is Booch and Bia and she does kind of ferments, but we did venison rissoles. A rissole, I know people outside of Wexford think of rissole as different thing, but it's like a little potato cake anyway. So we put venison through it and I made a hawthorn ketchup to go with it. Really nice, really interesting. The rose hips, I love making just a syrup with the rose hips. Like it's kind of the end of summer. So easy to make, packed with vitamin C. And you can put if you want, I usually put with the elderberries, I'd usually do my spice, like I'd put cinnamon, star anise, and clove and make it kind of really winter warmer. With the rose hip, you just make a syrup out of it. You can make it on honey, take a spoonful of it every day, or a nice kind of like hot toddy with it or something like that. And then, I mean, like your blackberries, there's like summertime is so abundant. The wild table that we did was great. Actually, I know I talked to you about it at the weekend as well, but the whole kind of concept of that was another woman that we knew had a kind of permaculture garden where they grew everything. So we basically used everything that was grown in the garden to put on a meal for about 30 people it was, and it was absolutely brilliant. It was so lovely and so nice to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So people went for a walk around the garden, they seen what was grown, they got to connect with it and learn about it, and then sat down at the end of the day and like I did a little talk on kind of foraging and stuff like that. Teresa would have done a talk on fermentation and stuff. And then we ate, lots of ferments and all the food that was grown in the garden. It was brilliant, really, really good.
What was the dish that you ended up cooking at that particular event?
Oh, there was so many different dishes. So many. Like we did, and this is another thing as well. And like that came up at the weekend with food. Like I think it's lovely. Like so we did like a communal sharing table. So bowls of stuff and people just took bits and pieces of whatever they wanted. And then, like big long table and sat together and ate and chatted and learned from each other. And that's, you know, I really got that vibe the last weekend when for your retreat as well. It was just so lovely to, you know, for me, yeah, I went to work, but it was just so much more than that, you know, the energy from people and just sitting around the table, sharing food together. And we even had some of the lovely carrots that you guys harvested from the garden. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
special.
Oh, it
And I
was,
think it's
yeah.
just going back to that connection with food. I mean, we're so far removed now, like a lot of people, from, you know, where our food comes from, you know, even the value put on an animal. Like meat is so cheap. You know, we cooked, or I cooked venison, the big leg of venison that we had last weekend, which was absolutely gorgeous. But you know, venison, it's one of the most sustainable meats that we could eat in Ireland. And it's important that we should eat, if we're going to eat meat, to eat more meats like that, you know.
That are local in itself. And just to, I suppose, expand
Local,
to,
exactly.
yeah, we're going to expand even on the, I suppose, that event that just went. So it was at Muckla Lodge in County Wicklow. It was 3 days, 2 nights. There was a jam-packed activity plan from morning to night. There was beekeeping, there was growing, there was fermentation, and inclusive of cheese making, which was amazing, getting to taste the cheeses. And there was hikes, inclusive of a delicious, I'm going to say, array of foods cooked by the majority of, most certainly, Orla. And the idea was it was focusing in on real foods, single ingredient, and local and fresh and organic. The idea where possible, and it was just a treat. And it was the words I'm going to tell the listeners that one man said at the event. It was the nicest meal he had ever had out. Right. And
Yeah.
there's a credit to Orla, who literally whipped up this thing with just these ingredients. I saw the stuff going in, and by God, I saw it come back out, and it was completely different. And the taste, and it was that whole thing about what Orla does herself. She comes into the room after cooking the several different dishes, comes out and announces exactly what it is, where it came from. And I suppose that's the whole idea of, I suppose, cooking from scratch. And that's one of the parts that people a lot are missing. We're going to takeaways, we're getting Chinese's and everything else.
Yeah.
For that matter, we're missing the whole digestive process. My mouth is still
Yeah.
watering. When we hear, most certainly, things being chopped, we see them visually. That's literally us salivating in the mouth, which helps the digestion process, which helps, I suppose, improve your digestion. When you improve your digestion, you improve the increased absorption of those vitamins and minerals. As a result of that, you have more energy, you thrive out the other side of it. But we're not doing the simple things.
And I think it's down to like so simple, like meal times are so important for me. And even like I know people are busy and they're running around and they're going to work and they've got, you know, but like even just to sit down with your family or your partner or whoever, do you know what I mean? To sit down in the evening anyway, if you can only do your dinner, if the mornings are busy, whatever, to sit down together and just enjoy a meal, you know, and take that time and appreciate the food. It's just, you know, I feel a lot of other cultures, you know, their day would really revolve around that mealtime. And I think it's just so important that we try to focus on that and include it so much in our lives, you know, and relax and
Yeah.
enjoy it
And
and make it
to,
a special thing in the day, you know, that you're connecting with food, you're connecting with your family, you know, you catch up with each other, how's your day been, whatever.
yeah. And I suppose that whole weekend was literally about a community. We went
It
outside,
really was.
we harvested the potatoes, we picked up the carrots, and again,
Yeah.
dug in the fork, picked them out of the ground. We brought them in, you dished them up. And again, that was the first of the harvest at that
The
particular
local
location.
venison, you know?
Yeah. And sure, here, while we're at it, right, we're going to start from what was the starter that we had for that main event. What did you had, and then we went and go through the main meal and then to the dessert. And the
So we're gonna start from Friday night?
well, Friday follows then Saturday. Yep.
Friday, I know, because I feel like Saturday was just the you know.
Well, build up to it. So Friday, and then we go to Saturday.
Yeah, so Friday, so we had, it was the roasted butternut squash. Because you know, because the weekend was all about growing your own veg, and I wanted to just include as much as I could of, you know, like squash, so easy to grow, you know, and for the people that were there, maybe they hadn't grown before, maybe they didn't know much about it. So I tried to use vegetables that I knew were kind of like easy to grow in season, you know. Anyway, it was roasted butternut squash with basil leaves and then a burnt aubergine kind of yogurty dip to go with that, and toasted seeds and some rocket. Lovely combination. And then, like a lot of people were asking me about the dip with the burnt aubergine. That's something that I learned when I was in Morocco traveling, and, did a little cooking class, and she was showing me about burning the aubergine on an open flame. So if, you have a gas cooker, just burn it on that. Gives it such a lovely smoky flavor. Really, really gives it a lovely depth of flavor. And then for Maine, we had it was kind of like a tagine, wasn't it? So it was kind of courgette, roasted peppers, halloumi, harissa with rice, and then lots of fresh herbs on top of that. Really tasty, wasn't it? And then the dessert was orange and polenta with a cardamom cream, which you
Oh
went for
my God.
seconds for.
You couldn't even say a third. Don't, don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I mean, baking is my kind of look. I do. I worked in the trough. I still work there, but I kind of go between the cafe and the bakery now. But bacon has been my thing for the last couple of years. So the sweet things, but I do a lot of kind of healthy vegan options as well. Like you'll know yourself from that night, it wasn't overly sweet. I try to use honey sometimes instead of sugars and stuff like that, or maple syrup. So there's lots of different things that you can do so it's not as sweet. Because I know, did you say that
I wouldn't be a big. I'm going to say
you're
first. I
not
wouldn't
a
be a
big
big.
sweet? Yeah,
Wouldn't be a big dessert eater, but
yeah,
again, I had to try.
yeah,
Just for being there on the weekend and try it twice or if not three times. But
yeah.
then, but then
So
on the
then on the
Saturday,
Saturday night we started off with because like I said, I do a lot of vegan when I do my retreats and parties. I just generally it tends to be a lot of kind of vegan, plant forward food. I don't really work with meat a lot. I do eat meat myself. A lot of people always think that I'm vegetarian or vegan, but I do in moderation. Do you know what I mean? And like this is another point as well, that you know we eat too much meat, and I think it's because it's so cheap as well. Like I think if I'm buying meat, I'll buy a better quality. Do you know what I mean? Like whether it's the organic chicken or something like that, and it is a bit more expensive. But if you just eat it once a week, it kind of yeah, I just think it's better to pay that bit extra for the better quality. So anyway, for starters, we had it was the leek and courgette, another two really easy things to grow as well in your polytunnel. Leek and courgette fritters with the herby cashew cream. So that was like a vegan cashew cream. So soaked cashews blended into a lovely paste, lots of herbs going through it, and then a kind of wild garlic oil that I had kept drizzled over the top of it.
amazing. Like I had to go into the
Yeah,
kitchen to sample that before anyone else sampled, just in case it was done, gone off. Oh my
yeah.
God, mouth-watering stuff.
It was lovely. And then for mains we had, and it's so funny because like I said, I'm not really used to cooking meat that much. And you will remember that was a massive chunk of venison. It was a whole leg, a whole hind leg. And at one point I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, what if this doesn't? Because one of the guys, and do you know what made my night? Actually, the guy who told me that it was the nicest combination of food on a plate that he'd ever had, he was saying to me beforehand, that he'd usually cook his lamb for like 8 hours. And this was at 3 o'clock, and I was putting the thing in, and dinner was at 6. And I was thinking, oh my God, what if this is not cooked? And I think you can vouch for it yourself. It was absolutely beautiful and so tender. It just, yeah, it worked out really well. But with I marinated it for 2 days in red wine and port, and pineapple as well. There's different fruits. Pineapple is one of them that will break down if you want to tenderize your meat. Like if you've got a steak or anything, if you put a pineapple with it, it'll break down the proteins, and it'll tenderize the meat for you. And it works really, really well. So that's what I did. The Friday night, chopped up loads of pineapple and put it in with the venison. So I think that probably helped as well. And then we had the organic kale and broccoli, whole roasted cauliflower with a lovely hazel butter, a lovely recipe that was passed on to me from a friend of mine, chef. Absolutely beautiful combination. Then we had lovely carrots that you guys picked that day, and baby roast potatoes with confit garlic, and then the jus that went with the venison. That for me was just absolutely
Delicious.
gorgeous.
Yeah. Tell people
Yeah.
how you actually made that, because when I looked at it, I was like, when I heard about the wine combination, I said, don't know what I really like that now. And I said, look, I'll
So
obviously have to.
berries, blackberry, blackcurrant, anything like that pairs really well with venison. So I did blackcurrant and port jus. So basically half bottle of port, um, blackcurrant, and then all your juices from your meat into a pot and just keep reducing it down till you have a lovely rich jus, and it just finish it off so well. Another for anybody who is thinking about, like trying venison and cooking venison, because I think we definitely should eat more of it. The one thing, because I was trying to do my research before I cooked it. So, and I think it made a difference as well. Your resting time with that type of meat is nearly as important as your cooking time. So for that leg of venison, I when I took it out of the oven, I left it for about 40 minutes because it doesn't have a lot of fat in it. So it just kind of keeps all the juices in. If you cut into that straight away, it's just gonna bleed. Or, it's just, yourself when you cut into a steak. So for anybody who wants to try it, that's a good tip. Don't cut into it, leave it rest.
No. And the final, the one that they're all waiting for, the dessert on the second day.
The dessert, I know. I make that so much, and I do when I'm doing different dinner parties. People love that. So it's a vegan. It's so simple, vegan tort, and it's just a ganache, and it's literally just made with dark chocolate and coconut milk and a little few drops of maple syrup. That's it, and then your base kind of nuts, dates, anything like kind of blitzed up, and that's your base, and a little bit of coconut oil. And then I did the salted date caramel, clementine, kind of sour cream, and then the hazelnut crunch. Yeah, it was a lovely combination
Oh my God.
together.
I've never eaten a dessert so slowly in my life. And when you put it out, right? And then there's people just not talking. No one talking. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God.
I know.
Oh
I
my God.
have to say, I came away from that weekend. Well, look, Coleman, you yourself, you're just such a ball of energy, and I put that on my Instagram afterwards because I came away from that weekend. People say like that your cup has just been filled. That's the way I felt. Just the energy, the food was lovely. Everybody enjoyed it so much. We went for a dip in the river. It was just such a magical weekend. It really was.
I suppose it's about those people coming together, right, to do those
Yeah,
healthy practices. And even yourself, I suppose, were influenced in the better. And that's what you want to be doing. We did the grounding session, we did the cold
yeah,
dip. And then you mentioned just before we pressed record, you were in the sea yourself, getting back into it because you know
yeah.
how good you felt. Everyone felt good, but geez, it was cold. I'm going to tell you, it was one of the coldest
It
dips
was
I had
very
done in a
cold.
while. And the river, like, it wasn't a deep river, lads. It was about three and a
No,
half foot. So you had to duck and go in. So it made it a little more difficult. But
plunged
geez,
in. Ah, no, we all felt great after. It was absolutely brilliant. It was really, really such a good weekend. When are you doing the next one? I'm dying to go.
oh,
I'm
we'll have
dying
to
to go.
we'll stay tuned for that. Yeah, definitely. Again, I'm going to say it may be leaning towards the spring, but maybe March is the whole idea of it. Again, bringing people who
Great.
want to literally grow their own, become more sustainable, do healthy activities from likes of beekeeping was one of the ones, and we might even change it up the next day. We had the likes of canning, there was the likes of the fermenting and the cheese
Yeah.
making and the growing, of course, with myself, and then all the foods in combination together, cooked by yourself, Orla, is something that went down an absolute treat.
Yeah. Another thing that I've taken away actually after the weekend is the lovely milk kefir that we got from Courtney from Hips and Haws. I don't know if you took some yourself, but I've been drinking that every day, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I took
It is
away so
amazing.
much from that weekend.
Yeah, I'm sickened because I forgot mine in all my
Oh,
bring everything.
I
I
know.
know,
Well, when mine grows, I'll pass you some on.
I know, I love that. And that's the whole idea. When one person has it, to get the next person looking after themselves. Kefir is a fermented food. It's something that again improves your gut health. That has massive knock-on effects to better skin, better mood, 90% of your serotonin produced in your gut. All those things are literally as part of any of those organic kind of fitness retreats that we'll be doing in the near future. Orla, you tell me, right, and the listeners, where is the best place for them to get in contact with yourself, and or if they want to book you in for any events in the near future in 2024?
Okay, so my pages on Instagram is the Wild Soul Kitchen. I kind of share, recipes and pictures and different things like that. So you can just send me a little DM on that. That's usually how people kind of contact me. And if you want to taste any of my delicacies, if you're in the Wexford area, you can pop into the Trough Cafe, which is lovely for now. It's not just me and the bakery, myself and the girls, loads of different vegan treats and healthy options and stuff like that. And and also keep an eye on that, because we're going to be doing more pop-up evening meals there, kind of like tasting menus and stuff like that. And it's a great way, like I said, myself and the other chef that do it, we try to use seasonal ingredients, foraged ingredients. So definitely keep an eye on that, because we're planning to do a lot more of those. And yeah, so that's the best way really to find
Yeah,
me.
I'll put all and tag all those most certainly in the likes of the show notes, so people can literally go down, click, and go directly over to the likes of your own page. And Orla, thanks so much for coming on. And I always end these shows by saying, stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.